All right, good morning. I see Anarchy, I see Rose Scrimshaw, and I see Billy Smith in the chat already. Good morning, thanks for joining us. How we doing today, Cameron?
Well, I didn't sleep too terribly well last night. It was just one of those things, but, you know, it's Monday morning and still ready to get the day, and God bless coffee.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. I slept like a damn rock last night with a belly full of the Sergeant Major's rare cooked prime ribs slathered in horseradish sour cream sauce. It was
I made a ham.
Huh?
I made a ham. It wasn't a prime rib, but it was a ham. Glazed it with some spicy mustard and pineapple. It was it's Happy Easter.
I especially love the prime rib dinner when we do it because my boy, my 5-year-old son, who's about to be 6, Michael, he thinks it's just the coolest thing in the world to tear off a piece of yeasty dinner roll and dip it in the blood, in the au jus from the roast beef. Oh, so good. It was nice. My sister and her family were over. Aunt Karen and my cousin Jen were over. It was good to see everybody.
Bloody butter's just about the best part too.
Yeah. and of course the kids ate too much candy. Oh, and I got footage of Eleanor, my almost 2-year-old. So we're doing the Easter egg hunt, right? And we made it a point to leave a bunch of eggs just, like, obviously out in the open, just in the middle of the grass in the yard where the baby would be able to find them easily. So she spent a lot of time in the kitchen watching Mommy cook, and she understands that you don't put eggshells in your batter. Apparently, because she would walk up to each of the eggs and she would crack it open and dump the candy into her basket and then throw the shell on the ground and move on to the next one. So I got some good footage of that on the new Panasonic X2000. That's gonna be. I'll try to get some of that clipped out. I tried to get it clipped out last night, but it's huge 4K footage, so it was taking too long to transcode last night, but I'll try to get it out this evening maybe. So anyway, good. Krista's with us now. Good morning, sunshine. Good morning. I've got a couple of articles here. And, well, it was Easter yesterday. And, okay, so some of you may find it surprising that I am not a Christian. I'm not an atheist. I'm not some big anti-Christian. I'm not going to participate in the war on Easter or the war on Christmas. I have some particular philosophical quandaries regarding religions generally. That said, I think the atheist position that there is no God is intelligently undefensible. Cameron, however, is a Christian. And he and I have had conversations about this subject on many occasions and in great detail. And we have several close friends who are various flavors of Christian and not Christian. Cameron, would it be fair to call you a generic Protestant?
I guess I'm not real fussed with denominations.
except for the whole non-denominational thing. Do you remember that non-denominational thing, man? Wow. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go there for a minute. When we were in high school, Cameron and I both briefly, and I say both briefly, at least I only briefly, attended a non-denominational church in an old Butler building. I don't remember the name of it. I think I went to 3 or 4 services, and I went and played paintball with them as a youth group 2 or 3 times. Do you remember the name? It was Shepherd's Gate.
Is that
right?
what it was called? Are we talking about what became Six Flags Over Jesus?
Oh, is that what happened? Did that same church eventually become Church in the Now?
I guess. I don't know. Anyhow, moving forward.
Well, it was Shepherd's Gate, and I remember that thinking back on it now, because even then when I attended a handful of services, I thought it was funny that it was called Shepherd's Gate, because this was not long after the whole Heaven's Gate thing where they all, I don't know if they drank Kool-Aid to do it, but there was the mass suicide to try and jump on the comet to go to heaven. So it struck me as funny that it was, religious reference gate back then. But that was a non-denominational church, and if they're not the same church that eventually became Six Flags Over Jesus, they were the same flavor of a thing. Krista says non-denominational means Pentecostal in disguise. And yes, Shepherd's Gate. Okay, that's an interesting claim, and I cannot rebut it because I have very little practical experience with the Pentecostal denomination. I understand a few things about them in kind of an aesthetic rules case. As I understand it, traditionally Pentecostal women don't wear pants. They only wear dresses and skirts, and they don't cut their hair. And Krista says, without the skirts, but with all the cultishness of it. Gotcha. Okay, so, and yeah, that church was, it was weird. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that may have been part of what put me off of Christianity more broadly, but a very, very tiny piece. Most of my concerns are philosophical, with particular rules and dogmatic concerns. But yeah, is that where I first met you, Cameron?
No. We met at high school.
Yeah, because we were both in choir and drama. And I had quit the band by then. But anyway, so religion is a thing that we and the boys discuss a lot. Our close-knit group, we have a devout Catholic, we have a Torah observant Christian, we've got a couple of denominationally indeterminate Christians. I don't think Patrick particularly prescribes to either the Baptist Church or the Methodist or anything like that. Just generally, he's a Christian, but not the Pentecostal-esque, culty, non-denominational thing. And a couple of us that are explicitly not Christians, but not what I think it was Camper called hostile atheists. I'm in no way an atheist. And so we do, my family is mostly Christian. We do Easter. We do celebrate Easter. As far as my kids are concerned, there's the Easter bunny and there's chocolate and candy. And we let the rest of the family have their Jesus talk while we're there, and we don't interfere with or complain about it. And that's just kind of the thing. As far as I'm concerned, a good excuse, any excuse to get together and spend time with the family, especially if it involves roasted meats, is a good thing. Right? I mean, take your dogma and set it aside for a moment. Just getting together with the family over dinner is a damn good thing. So, do you have anything to add before I pop into the article here, Cameron? I'm going to take that as a no. Okay, so I'm going to start with this article from the New York Post. And I'm going to read the headline and then talk a little bit about something. Donald Trump sends out Easter wishes and swipes radical left crazies. y'all remember last week we talked about how Laura Trump had put out a an interview with the Donald, and it was immediately removed from Facebook and Twitter. I think are the two places that it actually got stripped and banned from immediately. And Facebook said explicitly, the voice of the... Oh, no, it was Facebook and Instagram because Facebook owns Instagram. And Facebook said explicitly, the voice of Donald Trump is forbidden. Right? Anything that includes and I quote, the voice of Donald Trump is forbidden. Well, that video has popped back up. You can go find that article. In fact, if you go through the Brushfire Mind fan page on Facebook, there's a link to the interview on Rumble, and that is still there. We're allowed to leave that link up apparently. So, and in that, he talks about a lot of the things that we're not allowed to talk about. And it's funny because right at the beginning of the interview, he says they're censoring us, they're banning us from everywhere. And literally within 40 minutes of the interview being posted, it got censored and banned. It's like, huh. It seems that he might have been onto something. Almost immediately he got censored and banned. And then of course they're coming after him again. And in that he made the point, who needs Twitter, right? In fact, that's even the who needs Twitter is even the title of another article from The Guardian that we're going to talk about in just a minute. But he says, who needs Twitter? I keep doing these press releases and they get picked up by everybody. It's even better than Twitter. I've got a bigger reach that way, and that's working pretty good for us. And I'll admit that actually hearing the president say that, it actually surprised me a little bit because I have not been seeing these press releases. But then he puts out this press release for Easter, and sure enough, everybody picked it up. Now, what's funny is... Oh, go ahead.
They have to. They have to pick it up because he was their cash cow. He was the goose that laid the golden eggs. And they just had to cut the goose open, didn't they? Whoops.
Correct. And the funny thing is, most of the articles that I'm seeing that have picked up any of his press releases, especially this one, they're very critical of the press release. They pick up his press release, they quote it, and then they tear into it, and they make fun of him, and they insult him, and they make ridiculous claims about white supremacy and blah, 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 all that stuff. So I'll let you see it on the screen, and I will read it carefully to appease the algorithm. But he says, "Happy Easter to all, including the radical left crazies who induced our amphibian priapism and wanted to destroy our country." So, his remarks come a day after he called for his supporters to boycott the companies like Major League Baseball, Coca-Cola, and Delta that have criticized Georgia's Republican-led legislature's new voting laws. MLB said it was pulling its All-Star game scheduled for this summer in Atlanta. By the way, fly not Delta. And guys, if you've still been letting any of your money find its way into professional sports of any kind, stop. The MLB thing in particular is just baffling to me. We've already seen the NFL do this same virtue signaling thing, and it didn't increase their profit margin. That's for damn sure. Like the last Super Bowl was one of the weakest Super Bowls in history as far as televised figures are concerned. I think it was the weakest Super Bowl in history.
And the thing is, and this is what makes it especially baffling. Your typical professional sports fan either disagrees with the politics you're trying to push. And so they're like, well, to hell with this. Or they're largely apolitical, and they just don't want the two things mixed together. Like, if I'm going to go to a ball game and I'm going to pay, $9 for a beer and $8 for a hot dog, I don't want to get preached a bunch of bullshit while I'm there. I really don't.
Correct.
So the fact that they're doing this, it's like, well, okay. I mean, I guess the Major League Baseball doesn't want to make money. So yeah, boycott them all, and giving up Coca-Cola. I mean, too easy. Soda's bad for you anyway. We should probably all drink less Coke.
Yeah, I almost entirely quit drinking Coke. A little more than 15 or 16 years ago, because it was part of my diet plan when I was trying to lose a bunch of weight so I could enlist in the Army. And if you've wondered whether or not you should boycott Coca-Cola for political reasons, let me say this about that. I was at 350 pounds. I cut Coca-Cola out of my diet entirely for 3 weeks and lost 40 pounds. That was the only thing I did apart from a bit of walking. Right, and at the time I was very, very active because I was building paper mills and oil refineries. Like I had a working man's hard working job, 12 hours a day of heavy manual labor. It's not like I was sitting on my fat ass getting fatter drinking Coca-Cola. I was drinking Coke while I was at work. I cut it out and the fat just fell off of me.
What's just to compare and contrast, you remember a year ago when Donald Trump suggested that if we could start to come out of the coronavirus pandemic around Easter time, it would just be a beautiful, happy, symbolic thing.
Yeah, and he got absolutely panned by the left for, they said that he was declaring it would be over by Easter. And no, that's saying, would it be nice if I had $1 million is not the same as saying I'm going to rob your banks tomorrow. They're not the same statement.
Well, and the point that he was making, there's a thing about Christianity and the relationship you have to the rule of law, and that all of us have got a piece of the divine in us that undergirds everything about Western liberalism. The concept of the individual was born out of the morality that comes from having that kind of a belief system. So for him to suggest that maybe the country could begin to recover on the day we recognize the resurrection is thematically appropriate. On top of being very poetic, it was about as positive of a sentiment as you could possibly have. It was literally the phoenix rising from the ashes, and that's what they panned. And so it's just funny to me that here he is, he's back again on Easter, and happy Easter even to the far left and their frogs with erections. It just that's good stuff.
Yeah, and which of the founders was it that said something like our system of government is only fit to a moral and religious people? Look around, guys. You have met someone who voted for the guy that bit his wife's finger on the campaign trail.
Look, pal, it looked like candy, and Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Corn Pop was a bad dude. So, whatever you think about how the last election went, the fact is, there are in fact people, you know some of them, who voted for Joe Biden. People did vote for Joe Biden. That he is currently the president is far less terrifying than the fact that people voted for him at all. Right? I don't need to make claims on this about the legitimacy of the election. I'm not saying that I think it was stolen here and now on this platform in particular. But consider the mere fact that people voted for that guy. That should make you cry for this country.
Well, that's how a lot of them.
Go ahead, Cam.
That's how a lot of them feel in reverse. They cannot believe that so many of us were duped by the Cheeto Hitler and willingly voted for him. Like, that's...
Yeah. Yes, it's amazing. People out there who think that there's no such thing as gender also believe that we're the ones who got duped.
Yeah. And look, about the election law with Delta and Major League Baseball and all that, the law is actually not as bad, quote unquote, and I use the word bad loosely, but it's not as bad as they would have you believe. It actually increases early voting in some cases. It also mandates that every precinct have a drop box. Like, there's a lot of stuff in this bill that I am not a fan of at all. Pretty much the only thing that it got right was it took some of the power away from the Secretary of State and tightened up the need to have an ID to vote. And even that, it didn't tighten it up all that much. Like, we got rid of the signature matching system, and now, like, you can use your driver's license number or your social security number or things like that. So if I know your driver's license number, I can pretend to be you. I'm not real sure this is an improvement, people. But the way it's being portrayed with the whole, makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle, which is still hysterical to me. Hashtag Jim Eagle. But
yeah, and I still don't understand that. Is the eagle more white, or is he trying to make a joke about the scale of the thing?
I think it was a comment about scale.
Okay.
I think he was trying to say that this voter law is actually worse than, coloreds only water fountains. Because that's a thing. But I mean, Joe Biden said it himself. He said, if you don't know who to vote for, you ain't black. Right.
And we actually haven't treated this the voter law question much on this show. We're already almost half an hour in for this morning, so I don't want to dig into it too much. But do let me say real quick, good morning, Danny. Good morning, Kelly. Who else has joined us? I think I already said good morning to you, Rose. And Jamie Wilbanks has joined us, and Danny's with us. Good morning, sunshine. But we haven't dug into the voter law too much. Maybe we can do that on one day this week. But let me just say this about it. Literally every claim that has been made about the voter law in critique, everything that Joe Biden has said, everything that the Circleback Girl has said, everything that, all that crap that your old Santa Claus looking buddies on Facebook keep sharing about it. It's a fucking lie. All the critique are bold-faced lies. And let's be real clear about what Democrats believe with respect to the idea of what they call voter suppression. Democrats, and when I say Democrats in this case, I mean Stacey Abrams filed a lawsuit in which she claimed that voter registration applications are racist because black people cannot spell their names correctly.
Well, that's not that weird. Democrats have always thought black people were dumb.
Yeah. Avi Horowitz, I think his name is, did that wonderful video where he was talking about the understanding of racist voter ID laws, and he went to campuses and he went to wealthy white liberal neighborhoods and just asked random people, just walked up to random white people and said, hey, do you think voter ID laws are racist? And a bunch of them said yes. Yes, I do. Okay, why? And then they all tried very carefully to explain how, well, voter ID laws are racist because black people are too stupid to use the internet and they're too dumb to find the DMV. They don't understand how to apply for driver's licenses or for state IDs, and they're all super poor, so they can't afford to pay for them. And then, and I'm going to come back to that real. Okay, so we're going down this road a little further than I'd intended to. But fuck it. I'm so aggravated about these sons of whores lying about my beloved state of Georgia. So here you go. So then Horowitz goes to New York and just walks up to random black people and asks them if they have ID. And most of them responded, I ain't showing you my ID. No, I don't want to see it. I don't actually, it's okay. Do you have one? Yeah. Do you know how to do you know how to use the internet? And, you got a lot of these people look at them like, and I don't blame them. And I'm like, who do you think what? Of course I know how to use the internet. Can you afford an ID? What? It's like $10 or something, right? Do you know where the DMV is? And not only, like, the black people that he approached in New York, they didn't say, I can find the DMV. They all said, yeah, it's up there on the corner of, whatever, 95th and 115th Street or what. Like, I don't know New York well. I haven't spent any time in New York, but everybody, all the black people that he asked about this on the street in New York, almost all of them said, yes, it's on the corner of this street and that's like, they didn't say, I can find it or I have a general idea. They essentially gave the exact address or an exact landmark, right? They knew exactly where it was. Which, by the way, if you're talking about people in New York, generally, there's also the fact that they can hail a cab and just say to the cabbie, hey, take me to the DMV. Right? I mean, this ain't complicated. And then one of the criticisms, one of the rebuttals from the left, constant, is black people are all so poor. Because remember, poor kids are just as smart as white kids. Right, Joe? They believe that black people are all so poor that they can't afford to pay the price at the DMV to get the ID to vote with. Here's an interesting little piece of data that you need to understand when you hear them make that claim. In states like Georgia, where we do have voter ID laws, we do require an ID to vote, and this is true in most red states. I want to say all, and I'm almost certain I'd be correct to say all, but I haven't looked at the data in a couple of weeks or so I'm not sure 100% on that. But in the vast majority of the red states where we want voter ID laws, that ID is free. You go to the DMV and you apply for it, and they will generate the state ID, which is not a driver's license. It looks just like a driver's license, but it says state ID only on it and does not confer the licensed privilege of being allowed to drive a motor vehicle. But the ID that you need to have to vote in the state of Georgia is free. All you have to do is go to the DMV and get it. Now, in states like California and New York, in blue states where they oppose voter ID, they don't want ID to be used for voting, they have a few things in common. That ID is not free, and they tend to be sanctuary states. So you have states that are actively seeking to bring criminal aliens. They're actively seeking to increase their voting population with hostile foreign invaders. And then they add a prohibitive, essentially tax, to the procurement of a voter ID. They go out of their way to prevent you from getting the ID so that they can make it harder to put in an ID law. If that doesn't sound deeply suspicious to you, you're an idiot. And what's more, the cost of that ID from state to state that has a cost on those IDs varies. And guess where they're most expensive? California and New York. I think the last I checked, California's, it was like $50. Most states that have a charge on that, it's 10 or 15, right? Which is, I mean, nothing. I mean, it might as well be free. You're basically paying for the materials then. And I'm good with that. Honestly, I'd be perfectly comfortable with making everybody who wanted that what is currently a free ID in the state of Georgia, charge them the cost of the materials. Charge them $5 or whatever, right? I'd be totally comfortable with that. Charge them the cost of an employee processing the request and taking the photograph and producing the document and then printing it and laminating it. Yeah, $5-10, hell, $20. But the fact of the matter is, at present, that ID is free. It's free. Danny says it was a provision of the 2005 voter ID law. Okay, I didn't know about that, Danny, but that's good to know. So yeah, the things that Democrats believe are staggering to me. They believe that blacks are stupid, that they're poor, that they're incompetent, and that somehow Joe Biden won 25% more votes than Obama.
Because that was the most awesome and free and secure and fair and just, it was the perfect election.
Yeah, nothing
Absolutely.
went wrong. Nothing went wrong at all. There was none of that amphibious priapism that we like to discuss. And to be clear, I really hope that the phrase amphibious priapism becomes the next banned phrase on YouTube. I would wear that as a badge of honor. A big shiny one with a ribbon on it. And the Keck frog.
Yes. I did it for kecks. So yeah, Donald Trump told us happy Easter, and
Yep. Oh, hey, real quick, Anarchy just said, we the people do not have a right to vote for the president or vice president. Read the 12th Amendment and Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution. Yes, Anarchy, you bring up something. I am working hard on it. The essay the video essay that's going to make the claim that every amendment after the 10th was a mistake. Understand that until the 12th Amendment, the idea of a right to vote does not appear in the Constitution. Right? You do not have a right. There is no right to vote. When we talk about rights under the Constitution, what we're talking about are the natural rights. The rights that you have naturally as a creature before a government exists. And then those rights, which are enumerated in the Constitution, are not enumerated so as to be granted to you. They're enumerated so as to be a list of the things that the government cannot stop you from doing. There's nothing to vote for without a government. You do not have a right to vote. Now, that said, the idea that access to the vote should be equally distributed among the people, that is something that is brought in through the 12th Amendment. And in the 12th Amendment, it is referred to as the right to vote. But I've always hated that language, and that's in the video essay. That'll be part of my critique of the 12th Amendment, is that the right to vote is a problem. I mean, y'all know me. If I had my way, I would revoke everybody's citizenship and make you reapply for it.
Yeah, and I'd be all about voting being more difficult. I would. Like, if the if it's too hard for you to go to the DMV, um, don't vote.
In
Please,
fact,
don't vote.
I'm gonna correct that statement. If voting isn't important enough to you for you to find your way to the DMV, then you don't deserve to vote. If voting is not a sufficient priority that you would seek to complete unburdensome tasks in order to achieve the desired eligibility for the vote, it's not that I don't want you voting. I don't. But more importantly, your vote is a threat. I mean, plain and simple, people who voted for Joe Biden are an existential threat to the United States and life on the planet Earth.
Yep, I think that's all I got this morning, buddy.
That's a great note to end on. Guys, thanks for joining. Hang on, Alex joined us. Good morning, brother. How you doing? Alex points out that Delaware, Joe's state, requires voter ID. That's hilarious. And they don't have no excuse absentee voting there either. It's actually easier to vote in Georgia than in the president's home state. Well said, Alex. Well said. Pitt Danny points out that originally the Senate voted for president. Correct. And one of the worst things that ever happened to this country as far as the amendments go was opening the Senate up to popular vote by the people. The original intent was that the people elected their representatives in their districts to the House, and the House of Representatives represented the people and those as their constituency, and then the two senators from each state were representatives of the government of that state. So as the people, if you wanted senators who represented your interest, you voted for state government appointing senators who reflected the interests of the people based on the government that they constructed within their sovereign state. Taking the vote to the people for the Senate was a terrible and damaging blow against state sovereignty. And frankly, a move toward further centralized planning and eventual one world order. It was a mistake. So, all right, thanks for joining us this morning, everybody. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Little bit of housekeeping real quick. Cameron and I were talking about this before the show, and I just want to kind of put a bug in your ears so you know to expect it. All of the major alternative tech platforms that we post on after the show goes live. So we're live on several platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Periscope, and a bunch of others. Excuse me. We're live on all those every morning right now. There are a bunch of other platforms, Odyssey, BitChute, Dailymotion, pocketapp.net, several others that do not yet offer minds.com, that do not yet offer live streaming. But almost all of them have announced that in the coming weeks and months, most of them have said vaguely early 2021, they will be beginning to make live streaming available to content creators. When that happens, for each one of those, we're going to plan a special event. They may not all be the same format. Some of them might be more like the Cruster Fruck. We'll figure all that out in the future. But as each of them happens, as soon as we're able to start live streaming on any one of those alternative platforms, what we're going to do is we're going to do a live stream here where we're live on all of the platforms and announce that we will be going live on the one new platform, whoever's just allowed live streaming. And so we'll go live here. We'll stay live for a half an hour or so on YouTube and Facebook and everything else, and we'll keep it kind of vanilla. You know, we won't touch on anything too controversial like amphibious priapisms. And then at the end of that half hour, when you guys have had a chance to share and get as many of your friends to come and join us for the real live stream, then we'll shut down everything and switch over and live stream exclusively for the rest of that evening on whichever Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, whichever one of them it is that just gave us the live streaming platform newly. And then after that event, we will be live on that platform as well every day when we do our regular live show at 7:30. So keep an eyeball out for that, and we'll try to make an event out of it. And we will see you guys tomorrow morning. Y'all be safe out there. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I hate to cut it off now because we just had like a half a dozen more people suddenly show up. But sorry, guys, you just caught the end of the show. Make sure you come back tomorrow at 7:30, and we'll talk to you then. Be good.